Dove here. I just wanted to go ahead and do a quick tutorial on what I end up using to stream. Since I've gotten so many requests, I wanted to go ahead and do a quick video and just kind of knock most of the things out all in one go. If you guys have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments or contact directly. You pretty much know how to get a hold of me on Discord and everything else, so that shouldn't be much of a problem. Before everything that's kind of happened at the beginning of the year, I've been using a software called OBS. It's fairly common open broadcasting software, and it's very easy to use. However, Streamlabs is a company that has gone ahead and made it even easier. They branched out and built their own version of OBS, and it's really fantastic. I like it a lot. It makes things even easier to use to go ahead and get streaming, and it's really fantastic. Anything that makes streaming easier is generally welcome to the streaming community. So what you're going to want to do is go to streamlabs.com. Go ahead and download the beta. That's the only thing they have available right now. It should take a little while, not too long, depending on your connection. Go ahead and run it, install it, and once you have it and you open it up, it's going to open up with a window, and it's not going to look like this immediately. It's going to ask whether or not you want to log in with Twitch, Mixer I believe is one of them, and YouTube, something else as well. I can't remember what they all are, but I use Twitch, so I'm going to click on Twitch. It's going to ask me to log in, authenticate my profile, so I'm going to use my Twitch username, my Twitch password. It's going to ask whether or not I want to authorize it to get pretty much everything I need in order to go ahead and integrate the two together, Streamlabs and Twitch. So it'll go through, it'll get what's called your stream key, which is what gives your software permission to stream. It'll get your followers lists, any updates as far as recent follows or things like that. It gets all those permissions and goes ahead and integrates it all in just a simple login process. So I really like that a lot. Once you get it done, it'll pop up, it'll open like this, and you'll probably have something just basic and empty like this. You might not even have audio bars over here. The first thing you're going to want to do is super easy. It's going to pretty much set up the entire rest of the process itself as far as the technical stuff. So what you're going to want to do is come up to the cogwheel over here for your options. It's going to look a little weird for you because I have this running on a virtual machine, but up here at the above stream, there's going to be a button called General. You're going to click on that. That's going to open up this whole window tab here. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to run the auto optimizer. It's going to ask you, okay, we're going to run some tests on your network and everything else. Go ahead and do that, and you're going to approve it, and what's going to happen is it's going to go through and it's going to go and toggle all these other settings for you. So it'll go through and it'll find out what the best server is for you. I just recently reinstalled, air quotes, this program, so it doesn't have my preferred recommended server or probably any of my outputs or anything. But you would run it, it would update all this stuff, so it'll say like whatever server has the fastest ping for you, it'll connect to. Your output will get switched. So depending on what kind of CPU you're running, it'll either do software x264 or it'll do NVNC for if you're using a NVIDIA video card. Your streaming video bitrate will be anywhere from the 2000 to 5000 it'll recommend. And along with that, it'll also set your audio bitrate. It won't mess with any of your recording paths or things like that. That's up to you if you decide to do that. Your audio won't get messed with. What you'll want to do here is you'll want to set it to specifically whatever you're listening to. So for example, if you're plugged into a headphone jack in the front, you're going to want to set it to that headphone jack, so that way whatever is coming to your headphones, it is also listening to, the software is listening to, and will then output it to everything else. If you have this disabled or default and you're for some reason not on, if you're not using the default playback device that's here, for example, if you have some kind of alternate headphone setup, then it won't actually show everybody or let everybody else listen to what you're listening to. Same thing for mic auxiliary device. This is going to be your microphone or anything else that you have equipped. So if you have a webcam that has a microphone and you want to use that for whatever reason, maybe you don't have a microphone, you can go ahead and switch that here. Or if you have multiple microphones, you can pick which one you want to use. If it defaults to your webcam, you might want to force it to your headphones wire microphone or whatever. Additionally, again, you can go into here and just manually set it to whichever one you want by clicking set default. But Some people have very specific setups, and that'll help you switch them around. This is going to be, you can't see it again, but at the very top it's going to be your base pretty much resolution. That's going to be what resolution are you going to be recording. So if your monitor is 1920 by 1080, but you want it to be captured at so this is the base resolution. This is the resolution that I'm currently using right now. If it's if for some reason it was higher, it was 1920 by 1080, but I still want the video to be at 720 or even 480. Maybe I can't render that much of data to be able to output it, or it makes my games run slow whenever I do it. Coming here and just dropping the resolution down is a really good option. Now, the two different things that you need to pay attention to are your bitrate, your video bitrate, and your video settings go hand in hand. If you try to output too high of a resolution for your video bitrate, it's going to look like absolute garbage. And you'll only be able to find this out by testing, running test streams, and just seeing for yourself, okay, I was able to do 720 at 3500 bitrate, but if I tried 1080 at that rate, then it just looks like a pixelated mess. And what that pretty much does is your bitrate is how much data is being sent up to Twitch, and your video is how many pixels are trying to be represented by that data, is one way of thinking about it. So it's, I'm not going to say it's good to go overboard on your video bitrate for your video resolution, because what you'll end up having then is, if you're pushing too many bits, then people who are trying to watch your streams without video encoding, which Twitch, I believe, begins to give you when you become an affiliate. If you end up doing that, people will be trying to download by watching your stream with far too many bits that they can't handle. Some people who are either on a weaker internet connection or are far away from whatever server you're using can have a degraded experience with buffering and issues like that if you're pushing out too many bits. So it's kind of a not guessing game, but it's either you have to make a decision whether or not you want to stream at a resolution that everybody can watch, or if you want to make extremely high quality content. And that might sound counterintuitive, but it's better for people to be able to watch your stream than to try to watch your stream, get annoyed, and then leave. Your downscaling filtering is if you're using different resolutions. So if you're using 1920 by 1080 and then you're using 720 or 1280 by 720 here, this is the type of sharpening filter it's going to use to bring the amount of pixels down. This is again going to be based off of what your setup is. It should, if I remember correctly, set this for you in the auto tuner. However, if you can, I like Lacanzo's. If you can't run that, or it makes things run slower, bicubic is just fine. Same thing with your FPS, same thing with the resolution and your bitrate. If you're trying to put out too many frames to the server, it's going to just look like a garbled mess. 30 frames per second is perfectly fine for most games. If you're running something extremely fast-paced like a first-person shooter, then you might want to downscale your resolution to kind of cope with it, so that way it actually looks decent. These are your hotkeys. This is if you want to set up a key specifically to start your recording, stop your recording. It's nice if you happen to have a bunch of macro keys, or if you have keys that you know you're not going to use. Like the F keys are good ones. If you know you're not going to be using them often, you can set your F keys to stop recording, start streaming, start streaming. So doing that makes it really easy to be able to cut off your stream whenever something happens that you don't want it to. And yeah, it doesn't get out of hand too fast. This is all stuff that you pretty much don't need to mess with. It's going to pretty much set everything up for you here. Don't need to worry about that. This is if you want to export your overlays or import your overlays from different people. I'm going to show you a better way, air quotes better, and faster way to do it. Notifications is whether or not you want to be able to show notifications on your streams. If you want to enable sound for them, I recommend doing this. I'm sorry, this is not your stream notification. This is if you have any warning notifications. For example, if your computer can't handle your streaming settings and it's starting to lag behind your stream, These are your notifications on the actual program that will tell you, hey, something's going on. If you only have one monitor, I encourage you to enable sound, as it will actually give you a sound notification versus just a little red arrow that pops up over here saying, hey, you're not being able to use your entire setup because your CPU's lagging behind, or your video card's lagging behind, or something's happening, or your network connection's too slow, or something along those lines. If you're busy with one monitor and you have your game open, you're not going to have this program open as well, at least visible, because you're going to be having your game on here. If you're using two monitors, go ahead and turn sound off. Just run notifications. You'll be able to see a little red triangle and know, hey, something's going on. Detect skip frames is fine. I like it because it tells me if things are slowing down. Lag frames aren't too bad per se, so I'm okay with it. It'll still count them down here, don't worry about it. Detect drop frames again. Dropped and skip are similar but not the same, so just keep an eye out for them. Your appearance, this shows you whether or not you want it in night mode. Always keep night mode on. Who wouldn't? Show live dock on the left side. This is your chat. If you want, you can have it on the left side, because why not? Some people like it, some people don't. It depends on whether or not your primary monitor is on the left or the right. I have my primary monitor on the left, so therefore I have my dock on the right, so that way it's over there. Anyway, we are pretty much done inside of here. If you want to use their chat program, you can enable BTTV and Franker Face, but I don't use either of them because I don't use this software. So because I can't actually see that bar, I'm going to just close it that way. That doesn't matter. Now what you're going to go through is you're going to actually have to set up what you're capturing. So your scenes over here is pretty much like your folder. Over here is your sources, which are your actual elements to what you're pretty much showing your viewers. And your mixer is your audio setup. Now, like I said before, you have your desktop audio, which is your default, and your mic audio, which is also your default. That is going to be enabled no matter what. If you want to add something else in, like a music player, or I'm not going to say music player because that would still be going through your headphones. If you wanted to add something like a secondary chat source that you can toggle up and down the volume independently, you would have to set that up with a different program, import that in as a different audio source, and then you'll have control. So in case you're trying to figure out how to do that, that's what you would have to do. If you are interested in a separate tutorial on that, I can go ahead and do that. But we're going to go ahead and skip that for now, because we're just going to set it up as if you're doing, we'll say, single player or something on your own. Okay, so you have your scenes here, you have your sources here. Let's go ahead and say we're going to capture our desktop. That's what we want to capture. That's what we want to display. Or we'll say we want to capture this folder window. Okay. Hopefully I don't embarrass myself doing this because sometimes it's finicky and it doesn't like to work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a new source. You can also add a folder to contain all your sources and make things a little bit tidier. You really don't need that unless you're doing something along the lines of massive amounts of sources. We can get into that on another video. But we're going to go ahead and add a source. We're going to go ahead and say I want to capture a window. There's a whole bunch of different sources over here, and then there's widgets over here. Your sources, they're called standards, but they're pretty much just your basic sources in OBS. And what this is going to do is it's going to allow you to tell OBS, I want you to focus on this object. Widgets, on the other hand, are specialty things added in by Streamlabs that make your life easier. You used to have to do this manually through browser sources and separate windows, and it was a whole bunch of insanity. Now it's a whole lot easier. Your alert box is whenever you end up getting any of these donations, subscriptions, follows, it gives you a little preview right here of what it is. You pretty much always want to add that in, so we're going to go ahead and add that in. It's, I clicked on it, clicked add it. We're going to name it just test alert box. So that way I remember later that I can delete this. Okay, so this gives you a bunch of sizing options. The frame rate, if you wanted to lower it for whatever reason. If you wanted to modify things, you can edit code in here to make it translucent. Again, that's kind of an advanced thing. We can get to it later. Shutdown source when not visible. This is interesting and depends on how you want to use it. So for me, the way I like to do things is I like to have two different sets of scenes. One that has my overlays and one that has whatever I'm currently doing. So we're going to go ahead and set it up to where we don't shut down the source. And the reason why this is so that way we can be on a different scene and still have it running. Refresh browser when scene comes active is if you were using something like a video and you wanted it to refresh and loop right over whenever you ended up coming back to it. That's not really applicable to this, but because of the inherent nature that OBS is kind of a rework of this, then it's kind of inevitable. So they had to keep it in there, so yeah, it's whatever. I don't actually know if I can hit the done button. This is unfortunate. So I'm gonna end up messing with things. Hold on. Let's see if I can do this. Because I'm running a virtual machine right now, and it's not doing what I want it to. Yeah. This is probably gonna look weird. There we go. Okay. So you guys can't see it, but I can. But I hit the done button. That's pretty much all you need to know. Okay, so we have our test box here. I can go ahead and test the widget. If I want to, let's go ahead and test a host. So I'm going to click test host and bam, there it is. It's testing it and shows, okay, this is what happens. This is what pops up. This is the size it is. I don't want it that big. I want it a little bit smaller and I want it off to the side. So I'm going to just position it right over, you know what, let's put it over here. Yeah, we'll be fine. You know what, back over here. Doesn't really matter. It's just my aesthetic. Okay, so we have our alert box in. Let's go ahead and put in, let's put in, where's the chat box. There we go. This is going to pretty much link all the way to your Twitch or YouTube if you have it set up, and just show whatever shows up in your chat box. We're going to call this, for me, test chat box. And again, same widget settings, same everything. You can change the widget here. For some reason you clicked the wrong one. You can change the width, the height. This is useful in this particular case because you can make it thinner than it is wide. And that's helpful because of the fact that you can, this is a perfect square right now. And for some reason we don't want it. We can say, okay, I want it thinner. So we're going to make it 400. So now it's thinner than it is tall. So now I can show more text vertically than I can horizontally. Now this doesn't stop me from just grabbing this and shrinking it, but it keeps it to scale so that way it doesn't look all smushed or abstract or anything like that. Let's go ahead and test it. I can do test, and there it goes. It says test. Now because of the fact that I shrunk it, I also have the downside of the fact that the text is now kind of wonky and my name gets cut off. So that, I don't like that. Let's go ahead and set it back to 600. Let's go ahead and do that, and let's test it again. So test. Okay, so it's still not good enough for me. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make it even wider. So we're going to make this 1200 by 1800. Now you're probably thinking, okay, well this is freaking massive. What are you going to do with that? The answer is I'm going to shrink it down. And by shrinking it down, it thinks that it has a bigger resolution than it actually does. Oh, come back. Thank you. Okay. So now whenever I should do test, it should make it super tiny because I shrunk it as far down as I did. So that's not good either. Let's go ahead and do 800 by 800. You know what? No. Height we want 1000. Okay. Done. That's actually pretty decent for the size it is. Let's test that. And for what it's going to look like, it's probably all right. So if I was sending a bigger message, so this is a bigger message. Okay, there we go. So it actually fits appropriately. It doesn't get too squished. It looks okay for what the size is. So this would be perfectly usable. If I wanted to, I could shrink it down again, make it less tall, have maybe only 5 messages, and that would work. But for now, you know what, that's fine. Okay. So there's also other settings you can do with it. You can go into the widget settings, and this will dictate how long messages show up for, what sounds they make, everything else. And you can mess with all this stuff on your own. This is kind of personal preference. And then just mess with things over here on the left hand side. You can also do things like your font size, stuff like that. And yeah. So we're going to go back to our editor. We added in our chat box. Let's go ahead and add in that window. So I want to capture a window source. This is going to be what is being focused on. So this window capture is different from all the other captures because it works a specific way. Whether or not that's what you need at the moment is a different story. Game capture works really well for games. Surprise, surprise. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you need to do a window capture. Sometimes you need a display capture. Display capture will capture your entire screen or monitor. And you can pick it up that way. If you want to just put in a background image, you could just put in an image. Video capture source or device. Video capture device is your webcams and your console capture cards. Input audio is, again, if you're doing input, so extra microphones, things of that nature. If you have more than one microphone, you can set them up that way. Audio output is different, again, if you have different speaker sources or things like that. That's more advanced stuff. We're just going to stick with the window capture. We're going to do window capture. There we go. Okay, so it automatically locked onto my window. That's fine. So here it gives me the different ones. Usually you'll have some Explorer of some sort and then whatever windows you have open. So it automatically defaulted to File Explorer because that's the only other window I really have open. Match priority. This is kind of important. Not always super useful, but you get what you can get. Window titles must match means that it has to exactly say Window Explorer.exe and it has to have the title at the top of File Explorer. Now what this would mean in other cases would be if you're doing we'll say, let's run some Edge, okay? So if I do this, I have to refresh it because every time you open it, this window, it only has a certain set of window boxes and you have to cancel then refresh pretty much every time you want to find something new. So let's say I want Microsoft Edge. Right now it's not super good and it's not finding it. Window match priority, when I set it from Windows must match to otherwise find windows at the same time, it automatically defaulted to what it thinks I thought it meant. So it doesn't see as anything else is active. Let's go and click here. Let's go to Google. And hopefully this won't embarrass me and it'll actually lock on. Is it going to lock on? It's not going to lock on. But anyway, this is just one of the few problems you'll end up having throughout the course of time. So you'll end up figuring out the problems. And it's not Streamlabs' fault. This is kind of an inherent broken thing about OBS. Or maybe for some reason Edge doesn't like being window captured. Maybe it needs to be game captured. But File Explorer worked just fine. But anyway, going back to the demonstration. Find other windows of the same type means that as long as it's a File Explorer running similar thing, running similar, I guess, File Explorers, as long as it's File Explorer and it's something else afterwards, then it'll be fine. But if I just open up a File Explorer and I had it to must match, it wouldn't automatically find it. Otherwise, find windows of the same type would then go and say, okay, this is a File Explorer window, that was a File Explorer window, he probably wants me to find that File Explorer. So it would automatically lock onto it and then start capturing it. Otherwise, find of the same window executable would be as if there was File Explorer and then it would start locking onto everything that is the exe to the left. So you see how these are Windows edges. This Windows Edge is different from this Windows Edge because this is Microsoft Edge.exe, this is Windows Edge CP.exe. It would find any other Windows Edge.exe or Microsoft Edge.exe, but it would not find Microsoft Edge CP.exe, and it would not lock onto these like it did earlier. So that's just a quick test. That's pretty much it. As far as everything else, the only thing you would else need to remember is that these are like layers. So right now, if I brought this back up and let's say we want to capture File Explorer, okay, if I had this and my chat's still there, okay, I had this right here and positioned it just like this. I liked it, and you know what? We're just gonna size it right about there. And I'm like, okay, great. I wanna be able to stream and everything else. Where's my chat? Where's my host notifications? Okay, why is my host notifications getting cut off? Well, that's because your window capture is above everything else. All you have to do is it's simple as clicking it and then just dragging it down. That's all there is to it. So right there, I have my chat box visible now. And then now, if I were to do the host is on top. Okay. So that's pretty much it. You just capture whatever window you want, add in whatever extra widgets you want, and you're ready to go. Easy as that. All you're going to do is at the bottom over here, you can't see it. Sorry about that. This virtual machine business is pretty weird. But down here, there's a button that says Go Live. You click Go Live. It'll ask you what title you want for your stream, what game you're streaming, and then you just fill in those, click it to select what game and whatever you're starting to type, because it'll autofill in for you, and then just click Start Stream, and it'll automatically go out, connect to your profile, start streaming everything. Now, let's say that this is all handy and hunky-dory, but you want something a little bit more professional looking. Well, because of Streamlabs OBS, it's really nice and handy that they added in this library feature. All you have to do is click over here in the library, and it'll pull up pre-made versions of other people's content pretty much. They have made these so that way you can go download them and use them for your own. There's no payment for most of them. I believe there's a couple that you have to pay for, but I don't remember if they took them out or not. But either way around, the real cool thing that you can do is you can either search by, and this is what I prefer, animated or static backgrounds. If you want just a non-moving background, it's just a picture or an overlay or whatever, you can go through, click on whatever, it'll give you the details, it'll show you the different scenes. Again, scenes are pretty much like scenes. These are pretty much your like little collections of things. So this is a collection with a window capture, this chat box, this webcam entry, this frame image, this frame image, this frame image, and then it'll have slots for your donators, your newest donations, your top donations, your new sub, your new followers, and it'll automatically fill in these specific, I guess the easiest way to call them would be codings. So that way it will automatically pull that data from your Twitch profile. So that way whenever you get a new follower, it'll automatically fill it in with whoever your newest follower is. The only thing you'll have to edit yourself is the your name slots, and then you just double click on it. It'll open up a window for you, and then you just enter in your thing. I already have one set up that I've downloaded already. So when you download it, it's going to pretty much kick you back into the editor. It'll give you the scene that you're working on, and you'll be able to just click, and it'll open it up for you. So I'm going to go ahead and open it up for myself because I previously downloaded it. I downloaded Chronosphere, or I believe that's what it's called, Chromosphere. And this is an animated one. It's just something that I prefer. It gave me a live scene, it gave me a starting soon, and it gave me a coming back, or I'll be right back. I prefer to have them in the order of my personal use, so I'll probably move the scene up. This doesn't have any layering order, this is just personal preference. The sources are the only things that have layers. So right now, on the starting soon, this is just a video clip that they included. So just to show you, it's some video clip that it downloaded to my computer for me. It has it set up to loop it, and it'll restart as soon as I come back to the source. Uses hardware decoding if it's available. It hides the source whenever it playback ends. This is useful for conserving resources on videos, so that way you don't have the video just playing and playing and playing in the background. And close file when inactive is probably another useful one for this is the very same reason I just said. And then if you had for some reason a color range preference, you can. I've never had to mess with any of those, so. But pretty much what I would do is I would start here, start my stream, go ahead and start streaming. And then I would have to come to my live scenes and everything else. Now notice, this source setup only has the videos in there. It doesn't have a chat. You can't see the chat. It doesn't have the notifications of any follows or anything. If you want to, you would have to go through and add them to this as well. Your live scenes, okay, I would say, okay, I'm ready to go. And if you notice, whenever I click between the two, it just snaps. It's just one and then the other, one and then the other. Easy way to fix that, or if you want to, you can come over here to where your scenes are, next to your plus and minus. There's a little cogwheel again. You can switch your transition from a cut to really anything else. Let's go and do a swipe. And we're going to have it take, this is in milliseconds, so this is going to be 300 milliseconds. So let's do 200, because that's a little long for my preference. You can choose the direction. Let's go ahead and do to the right. So now whenever I switch, it does a little sliding animation. And that's just something that happens, and it's all nice. Now if I wanted to do it slower, I can slow it down and everything else. I'm going to try not to take too much longer because this is already dragged on as it is. But this is each of the different items here. You can kind of see. You can go through and edit them. If you don't need the webcam, just come over here to the webcam, click the little minus. It's as easy as that. Background, delete me. This is because this is simply a standard image that they included with the download scene. You would need to go in and add in your own game capture in place of this. So once you delete this, the picture will go away. I'm not going to do that yet. Webcam frame, this is again a little video playing. That's actually a translucent frame. I don't need that because I don't have a webcam, so I'm going to delete that. I mean, I do have a webcam, but anyway. Chat box frame, okay, well, maybe I don't like the chat box frame. Let's go ahead and get rid of that. The header's pretty cool. The latest followers, that's cool. Latest donators, I don't really need that. Maybe I'll go ahead and click in there, change it, whatever. Hey, Sombra. Because it pulled in my donation stat from my actual streams. So Sombra was my latest donator for $5. Ooh. But right here is code. It's going to be your name, or the person's name, and then the amount. If you want to say, this person was awesome with amount. And whenever I click here, it should, or it could not. Maybe not. Oh, that's right. You have to go in and use message. So it would be message. And then I would close it. And so, yeah, no, actual text may take up to 60 seconds. I don't know. I don't mess with this really. So yeah, either I have it or I delete it. But that'll be something we'll have to get into later. Font families, you can change your font, everything else. It's kind of all self-explanatory. Just take some time to poke through and stuff. This again is your alert box and things like that. Then we'll be right back. Once again, you have to be careful because you only have those videos playing. So one of the cool things is you can actually count a scene, an entire scene, as a source. So let's say I want this. I'm going to go ahead and have my starting soon on top of my BRB. So I'm going to add this source in. Come on. Okay, and so now I have my starting soon source on top of each other. This is useful for if you set up things the way I do, which is I have a source called overlays, and I set up all my overlays inside of them. Then I have all of them just there, and then I just add my overlay scene to everything. Overlay scene, and all I have here is just my game capture and my webcam, things that I only want on this specific scene. And that's the way I keep down with all this clutter. Additionally, you can always use, this is a new feature, you can add in the folders, which is kind of neat. So for here, I'm going to go ahead and drag all these in. These are all just text, and it is not limited by what I tell it to be. That's just a text label. So now things are a little bit easier. I don't need to mess with all of these all the time, so I can just store those in there and then be able to toggle things on and off as I need to. So something over here is to note is that you can lock things. So let's say I don't want to ever move the header. So now I have locked it. I physically cannot lock on and select the header because I have done that lock. Now that I've done it, I can now select it and move it as I feel fit. The other thing is this eyeball. It's useful because you can toggle things on and off, without actually having to delete them. So if I want to get rid of the picture for just a second, I could just click the eye and it's gone, and then snap it back in. So that's handy and useful for different things like window captures or game captures that you're not using, which you don't want to delete because you know you'll be using them again later. And that's pretty much it. Other than that, I mean, you guys let me know what you need help with, and I can hopefully help you out. So thanks for watching, everybody. I appreciate it, and I hope that you learned something from this, and I get to see you guys out on Twitch. So let me know if you need any more help. See you guys.